What's up? What's up? What's up, YouTube? This your boy Scott Lewis, Apartment Gamer and More, Brooklyn Nets Edition. That's what's up. What's good? How's everybody? All right, I'm looking at the scores for the OKC and Minnesota Timberwolves game, and Timberwolves are putting it on now. Word out. They made definitive. Yo, we are not no punks. That's what's up. 92 to 56. They are doing damage. I mean, I wouldn't, I don't expect the Timberwolves to lay down for OKC. So I don't think nobody thought that. Or did they? That makes it interesting because the Nets go to, the Tangerines, the Knicks, excuse me. the Knicks go to Pacers town to play the third game after losing 2-0-2. So the Knicks got a chance, man. Got a chance to redeem themselves. But they cannot get no slacking like what the Minnesota Timberwolves is putting on OKC. It just feels different. I can tell you the reason why it feels different is OKC is up 2-0. So, of course, it feels different, but it means something to Minnesota to put it on them. Like, yo, y'all put it on us, we're going to put it on you. So, that's the way you bounce back, man. So, the Knicks got to bounce back. Because if they don't, it's a wrap. So, they need to make sure. And the Pacers need to, do their thing too. They need to make it definitive, like, yo, listen, it ain't a mistake that we won twice at Madison Square Garden. So let me put the link up in case somebody wants to join, which you are more than welcome to. Put the link up there. Yeah, so. Yep. There's the link. And don't forget to support the page. I want to talk about the Nets and a draft pick of 8 in the NBA. The draft 2020-2025. And I personally think there's going to be a good pick there for them. If you wasn't getting the first pick, then maybe the second pick would have been also not that bad. But after the second pick, you're just picking according to what you feel is good for your team. So the skill level is, I'm not saying it's bad. It ain't the number one pick. Everybody's saying that the number one pick is going to be the most valued pick in this draft, Cooper Flag. I don't think nobody doubt that Cooper Flag is not going to be good, but I think Dylan Harper is going to be good too. Couldn't go wrong that way. That's my personal thing. You got some of the players, the third, fourth, fifth, that might fit teams that they scheme and how they play. So we'll see. But being the eighth pick in this draft for the Nets is definitely not a bad thing. Now they got 4 picks, and uh, unlike what most people feel that drop off comes after 20, I kind of think that there's going to be picks throughout, maybe not in particular order, just because it's 13, that it means it's better than 19. I just don't see it, But I do see that there's going to be good picks later on in the draft. So for me, it's, I think it's just a good thing that, let me see if I can add John to my thing. Welcome, John.
Hey Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. How
Hey,
you
how you
doing,
doing?
man?
How you doing? Doing
Okay.
good, doing good.
I'm talking a little bit about the Nets and they draft picks. I personally think that the eighth pick is not a bad pick.
Yeah,
If you're not getting 1 or 2, then it is what it is. That's
yeah.
that's
I mean
that's
that day
basically that's
that day was a soul.
yeah. I basically concede that even if it was the 5th pick, it's no worse than the 8th pick. Or the 6th pick is no worse than the 8th pick. I mean, the talent level, you don't know how teams are going to jump around. You can't be too sure what they're going to pick. You kind of have an idea where most people are going to be at, but 1 through 8 is not terrible.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate the Nets base didn't get the results they wanted. But I was trying to tell people sobering reality, getting the 6 odds probably was not going to help us at all because for the last 6 years it's always been around a 6 to 9 pick. I know people are like, hey, there's a little bit of hope, but unfortunately, just reality had to set in, and it's unfortunate when you get a crack at Cooper, Ace, or Harper. I mean, you can still potentially trade up if you want, but I got to see it to believe it with Sean Marks. I know he makes trade moves around draft night or sometimes on draft night, but this is like the one draft where if you're going to take a big swing, don't miss if you really do want to get a cornerstone prospect in this draft. And we have a lot of assets to work with 31 picks, 5 on draft night. We also have 1 pick at 2026 if you want to improve that by adding more. There are a lot of different routes and action plans the Nets can do on draft night. One thing I hope is they just don't be passive. If there's an opportunity to trade up for Ace Bailey that makes sense, you definitely want to entertain that and take it because getting somebody like Ace Bailey to be a part of your long term future is a huge thing. I don't know if you heard today, Scott. There's some rumors about the Nets potentially trading with the Spurs for Dylan Harper. That's some crazy news right there. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah,
I
I
I can
mean,
see I can see the Spurs wanting 2 picks, but they're going to want the 8th pick and one of the late picks.
right. And here's the thing I was telling people that got a big reaction today is like essentially we'd be giving the Spurs Giannis by taking on Harper because if we give
Yeah,
them
because
our
they could use
assets,
it.
they have everything to get Giannis. So you're essentially giving the Spurs a shot at winning a title. And there's been a bit of history where the
Now,
Nets assets have helped a lot of other teams except
yeah.
their own team,
Now,
which
now,
is
now, one thing I can say though is giving it to the Spurs is not giving it like the same to Boston. You play Boston often. You have to go through Boston to get to the title. Or the opportunity is if you was to see the Spurs in playoffs, it would be in the finals.
right. And that's the
Am
worries
I
that
right
the
or
set.
wrong?
You're right, but the Nets team ever do get to a final, we don't have a shot in hell. I mean, and this is respectfully, we don't have a shot in hell of beating a Giannis and Wemby with whatever we could cobble up, and
But they
that's the
wouldn't
gamble you
but
have
they
to
wouldn't be in
consider.
the East.
Right,
Giannis wouldn't
right.
be in the East no more.
Right. If you get Giannis out of the East and you get Dylan Harper, that's a huge celebration. Nobody can lie because the East,
I
does get
wouldn't.
weaker, but opportunity wise, it opens up a lot of doors for the Nets. And
I
if you
mean,
get Dylan Harper,
I know it make the Spurs a juggernaut. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
Avengers. It would be like assembling the Avengers.
But I mean, the only way we would see the Spurs in the playoffs is in the finals.
Right. And you think about what assets you give up. Cam Johnson, obviously your eighth pick. I
Right.
wouldn't want to give up the 19th pick. I
No, I'm not giving up the 19th pick. I'm definitely John. Yeah, John probably got
entice
me.
the Bucks for
Yeah.
Giannis and to give up Harper. If we just want to get Dylan Harper though, with only giving up 3 to 4 picks and Cam Johnson, I think that's a victory.
I
Especially you don't
think
give up.
that's a victory. I can go for that.
Woo, party, right?
I can go for that.
Like that. That
But
would
I
be
don't
huge
want to give
celebration.
up that 19th and 8th pick.
Right.
I
That's the thing,
mean,
Scott. You
I
might
mean,
have
I
to give
wouldn't
up
mind
one of
giving
them.
up the 8th pick for the second pick, but I don't want to give up the 19th pick. Am I wrong for thinking that way?
No, Scott, you're not. And at the end of the day, I would. It would be quite a masterful plan that somehow we're able to get the second pick and keep the eighth pick. But at the same time, you got to be realistic. Even with Ace Bailey with Philly, you know Morey's going to want a valuable asset alongside of Cam Johnson, and you
Right.
might give the eighth pick just to get the third pick. Like I would definitely would try to save the 19th pick. I think that's a great spot that pick is in. There's definitely some big man options that are really being magnified with Danny Wolf, Maxime Renard, and you know where Thomas Sober is going to fall. We need a big in this draft. If you get your point guard with a liar pick, I keep saying the strategy is you got to secure your big man in this draft. So if you could trade up for a star potential franchise point guard Harper and still be able to have your 19th pick to get a big man, definitely a successful start to your draft night, especially if that's all you do if you have to give up your other assets to trade
Right.
up for Harper. But you
I see
definitely
what you mean.
the game plan is with your lottery pick, you hope to get either a point guard or a center and use that 19 pick, I guess, to get a point guard if you already got your center. Like, hey, maybe the Nets want to get two bigs in this draft. Like, any way you go, I want this team to get bigger as a team. We got to get rid of the small ball philosophy, and there are a lot of big dudes in this draft. If we could get bigger as a team, you already could start seeing the construction of, hey, we're not going to be this small ball team that's just scrappy anymore. Eventually, you want to get to that level where you could compete on a night to night basis legitimately with the players that you draft in this draft. So I think that's the strategy right now. Secure your point guard or your center, and do vice versa with your secondary pick, which is the 19th pick.
I clearly want point guard, and I clearly want a center.
Right.
I always said we need to get big. We need another big. We need a stretch big. I would like a stretch big. I think you can't play in a league without a big that can't shoot.
Right.
You just need it and can do something versatile in the paint. I mean,
Right.
you know,
And that's where Common Maluwak really just starts opening up eyes. I mean, you
you
look at
think
his
he can
draft
shoot?
measurement.
You think he can
I
shoot?
think he's got potential. He's working on the 3 point shot. It's rare when you see bigs like him work on the 3 point shot right out of the jump. He's clearly wants to expand that part of his game. And with Duke, he was mostly a rim runner, but very very efficient. 70%, I believe, he was scoring that field goal. So he definitely pick and chose his spots very strategically. But now you're in the NBA. That doesn't work unless you work with all stars. And if he's with Brooklyn, he's going to have to find ways to do it on his own. And if Common Maluwak could create self offense, which we've been asking Claxton to do for 6 years now, already you're getting more than what you're asking for. Because defensively, that's what Common is definitely going to help this team. Being a 7 footer, rebound, shot blocker, it could clearly be that center of the future. And if you pair him with Cam Thomas, I think Cam's job gets a little easier because he's going to actually have a big that he can work with and throw lobs to. I don't see Claxton Thomas having that chemistry that a Common Maluwak and a Thomas could. I know some people are skeptical about the offensive game he has, but man, you look at all the intangibles he's got physicality wise. That there's a real potential blue chip prospect if you draft Maluwak with your lottery pick that the
Yeah.
Nets have to explore if they don't get Fears or they don't trade up for Harper. Because if I'm torn, I'm a little torn between Fears and Common. I think Fears has offensive potential. I think he can definitely finish at the rim a lot. He's got some playmaking abilities. He can give you defensive effort if he's really locked in. I just worry about the height factor. I mean, 6'2", compare that with Cam Thomas, your backcourt is not big. And I
Yeah.
think that's something the Nets have to think about because you definitely want a point guard, but you'd want a balanced point guard probably next to Thomas. That's not a
So
knock on Fears, but there's definitely potential for worry there. Whereas with Common, you already know defensively he's going to give you a lot of effort, and that might protect Cam Thomas's deficiencies on
right.
defense.
So what about the guy that got hurt in the G League? for the Nets? The point guard, the French,
Whitehead,
the French guy. What's his name?
French guy.
The one that
Oh,
left Detroit.
Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes.
How's he been in the G League? I would like to know. Is he still developing?
He had some decent performances in the G
Because I
League. I
know
was
he
just
got hurt
frustrated.
in the G League.
Yeah, I was frustrated this year when we called him up. It wasn't for a standard contract. Listen, at the end of the day, I didn't understand the D'Lo move. I understand the trade to get rid of Doe's contract. I completely understood that. You got some capital, but they could have easily bought out D'Lo, called up Killian Hayes, and let him try to earn the start the either a backup spot or a starting spot with this team because we were supposed to tank, we were supposed to rebuild, and having D'Lo play and help you win those meaningless games, it definitely bit us in the ass, Scott. And I think some people still don't want to admit that having D'Lo on this team this year didn't make any sense at all. At least with Killian Hayes, you knew you were going to get playmaking from him. Offensively, he wasn't going to do a lot. But Jordy told him, I want to see more offense from you, kid. And guess what? His second game when he was called up, he dropped 19 points. Like Killian
Right.
Hayes would have been perfect for this team as far as what our goals are, but you got stuck with D'Lo. So I don't know what Hayes' future is, Scott. I think he's definitely trying to find options right now. I don't think a lot of teams want to take a risk on him. But if the Nets' goal is to tank another year, there's nothing wrong with this guy being the backup point guard to whoever you potentially draft with your lottery pick or one of your late picks to be your point guard of the future.
Right.
So
Exactly. Now,
yeah,
if that trade or a possible trade for Giannis, which I personally don't like, but I mean it's okay. I get it. Or the trade with the Spurs, who to try to move up to get that second spot. Would you just give up the last two picks? Do you think that's a viable thing?
for Giannis or for
Yeah,
Harper.
this year's um the Knicks and who else pick we got?
We have Phillies pick. I think we have a late Suns pick somewhere in between. I'm not sure for
I think it's
2029.
Detroit
No,
pick,
that's the
right?
least of the. Not sure about that one, but we definitely have other teams' picks.
Well, it's
That's for
27 and
sure.
28
Yeah.
or
So
something
so
like
we
that.
have a what we lack in player, potentiality with the Giannis package, we definitely make up for in the draft capital end. But you also don't want to gut every single asset you have. If the Nets somehow do go after Giannis, because it looks like a Giannis trade might have to happen around the draft night because the Bucks are trying out players. They don't have a pick this year. So if they are going to rebuild, you probably want to do it before draft night because if you try to trade Giannis afterwards, if there is going to be a Giannis move, it's probably going to happen between now and June 25th. So and today is May 24th. So we're about a month away. So I expect there to be a lot of Giannis talk starting at least the beginning of June because as far as you lead up to draft night, you want to start hearing who's really after him, who's going to take a gamble on him, who's going to include other teams. Because I think if you're going to do this Giannis deal, whatever team you are, I think you got to get a third team involved because you got to
Yeah,
think about
that's
salaries. The thing about Brooklyn that makes us such an attractive either facilitator as a third team to get assets in the Giannis deal or to get Giannis himself. We have $55.4 million in cap space. No other team has that cap space. Even Detroit, they just took a cap space plunge because Kate Cunningham got a special bonus in his contract. I think they had 20 something $1 million in cap space. That number dropped to 17. So there really is
right.
nobody that can match the Nets as far as matching Giannis' salary. But if they want to rope the Nets into a three-team deal where we can absorb a bad contract nobody wants, some draft capital, that could definitely benefit us. As far as what Brooklyn does, if we do have to go Giannis, I think as Sean Marks, you got to include the Pelicans or Portland in this deal. Both those teams have Bucks picks. If you want to try to lessen the blow of the assets you have to give up for Giannis and eventually try to get a secondary star to pair with Giannis, you definitely got to get a third team involved. Like maybe do a Zion and some Bucks picks to the Bucks, and the Bucks and Nets cobble some draft capital assets to send the Pelicans' way. I don't think a one-on-one deal would be smart at all for Brooklyn at this point. As much as I would be enticed with the idea of Giannis, if it's a one-on-one deal, we're likely going to be gutted a lot of assets. Whereas if you bring in the Pelicans or Portland, there's a chance the Nets might be able to save a draft asset or two there that they can use down the line for either bench upgrades or for a secondary piece. I think if you're Sean Marks right now, do not do a solo deal because likely it's going to gut us. Whereas if you can rope in another team, I think that's your best bet for the Nets to somehow pull off plan A while trying to figure that whole thing out. But if it's just a solo trade at this point, Scott, I don't think it's going to benefit the Brooklyn Nets right now
I
because
think
we,
so.
we
I
definitely
think you're
lack a
right.
lot of core elements as
Right.
far as roster pieces go. So that's definitely something the Nets have to weigh. But if Marks can cobble together a multi-team deal like he's been saying he could do for so many years, something's possible there. But the Nets definitely have to weigh what's important right now: building the structure a little bit more, or going after a star like Giannis that will likely recruit pieces that will follow. It's quite a quandary, but I think Giannis right now, his mindset, he wants to be in a big market. You think of Brooklyn. I don't want to say the Knicks. I don't think the Knicks have a shot in hell, but crazy things have happened. The Lakers, like he wants to go to a big market team. He's been stuck with the Bucks for 10 years and won them a title, but they're a bottom, I think, 27 market. Giannis wants to play with the big dogs. He wants to entice his legacy even more, whether he wins or loses. He wants to be in a big market, at least have a shot of getting that second title.
I
So I
think
think
if the
Brooklyn
Knicks
is
get
in the
swept,
race. It depends what
if the
happens.
Knicks get swept, they will continue. They might try to get Giannis.
Yeah, the thing with the Knicks is here.
But who
John
would
Horst,
take
he's get
Cat over Giannis? I mean, I wouldn't. I don't. I would.
listen. Scott, I think Breezy asked you a question yesterday. Is Brunson the worst defender? I said something I don't think anybody heard, but I think Towns is the worst defender left in the playoffs. I mean, listen,
He was
he's
getting
got
burnt.
he's got spunk and moxie, but every time this guy makes a bucket on the rim, man, he likes to flex. You notice that, Scott? Every time he
Yeah,
gets a
he
bucket
don't
on
get
the rim, he
back.
goes, "Woo, woo, woo, woo." But defensively, man, you get moved like a plant on the court. Like,
Yo, listen, it's been plenty of times they just left his ass right back there on the backcourt.
yeah,
Plenty
like
of times last night, the other
right,
night, he just don't get back on D. He just
right. And
doesn't.
if you're the Bucks, do you really just want him to entice anybody to come to the team? Why do people want to play with a guy making 50 million
Yeah,
that
I
gives you
know.
almost no defensive effort? Yes, he could drop a lot of 3-point shots, but he rarely does the interior offense on a consistent basis when it matters most. So if
Yep.
you're the Bucks, you're probably going to want a cobblestone of maybe Carthy Towns, Mikal Bridges. Oh, I know that Knicks definitely want to get off him eventually if he keeps choking.
That's a thing.
Josh Hart, maybe Miles McBride, and that last Wizards 2026 pick they have. You'd probably have to give up 3 to 4 rotation pieces just to get Giannis. And what are you left with on the Knicks? Jalen Brunson, Giannis, OG, and whatever you could cobble together. I think that would be a desperation move on the Knicks' part. Now, if Giannis wants the Knicks, obviously it's nothing you and I can do. But I guarantee you, Scott, if Giannis is with the Knicks, we're in a even greater position with those picks because Giannis's body is not going to hold up on a team like the Knicks. He's not going to like the pressure the means can put on him if they don't win. And Jalen Brunson, man, listen, offensively dynamic, but defensively,
Oh, he's
he
a
is a
liability.
liability on most nights. So how does it make Giannis' situation better than what it is with the Bucks right now? Yes, you have a co-star, but he essentially does what Dame does, which is score big buckets, but rarely does everything else that you're asked to do besides playmaking and scoring. Brunson doesn't give you all those other intangibles you want. So I think if the Knicks are that desperate and go after Giannis and make it happen, they're going to be gutted a lot more than they already are. And I just don't think they're going to have the depth to contend for a title like they might think they do. So if that happens, I still think Brooklyn's in an advantageous position with the Knicks picks. So that might be even more of a reason why we don't have to, go after a star. We can see how the Knicks do with Giannis next year, and if they still do bad, hey, we got that 27 Knicks pick that could be a valuable trade asset, and their 2030. Listen, that 2030 Knicks pick we have, that is the most valuable asset we got from the Knicks haul. Because you think about it, Scott, Brunson's going to be 30 soon. Mikel's going to be 30 after next year. That Knicks roster is aging. Like
Yeah.
they have been spent this year. And if
Yeah,
you go after
they're not
Giannis,
going to
you're
be
going to spend
good
more.
5 years from now. I doubt that.
Yes, so I feel like this was their best chance. If you want my honest take, Scott, this is the Knicks' best and probably only chance to win this year. And if they don't do it, they still have time. But I think if the Pacers, keep doing what they're doing, they can definitely pull this off. And OKC, man, listen, I don't know what happened to OKC tonight, but every time they are
Oh,
faced with pressure moments, they
they
get
got
spanked.
slacked.
Not
They
Scott.
got smacked.
If we get Pacers and OKC in the finals, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people have the Pacers winning. But listen, what have the Pacers shown in the playoffs so far? They can handle pressure moments. 3 times they were down by 10 or 8 points with a minute left in the game, and they somehow won those games. Every time OKC's been in a pressure situation, they've collapsed. So if you want to talk about who's a team that can handle the pressure, I think Pacers might have a little slight advantage on OKC. OKC's fine when things are going great, but once you feel the pressure, once you get put in a corner, what kind of team are you really are? And I think OKC tonight, man, listen, they were supposed to take a punch from Minnesota, but they weren't supposed to get knocked out by Minnesota. And if Minnesota wins Monday's game, woo, this series might change in a heartbeat. And I think
Oh,
the Pacers,
they
if they get
smacking.
business done, if Pacers get business done tomorrow, they are looking at as a team in advantageous position. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, they getting smacked tonight, boy.
Oh my God.
Minnesota's putting it on them. But you know
Yo,
what?
Anthony
That's how you
Edwards,
do it.
man.
You when you
Mm-hmm.
down 2-0-2, you gotta come back with a vengeance. You have to
Right.
let that other team know it ain't gonna be no lay down. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? This is how you make that statement. Now, I'm not saying Minnesota will win this series. I still think OKC is, it's tough, but
Right. Right.
hey,
Well, let's stay
listen,
on
they
next
know
part.
they in a fight now.
Well, if Minnesota wins Monday's game, you're tied. You're going back to OKC. And OKC's done well at home, but last thing you want to do is win at home. But then you go to Minnesota and you lose, and now you're at Game 7. Like if the Pacers somehow take care of business this week and almost have, I would say, a week off, you got to look at the Pacers having a bit of an advantage. If they win before OKC does,
Yeah,
man, you guys are thinking about that as being a potential element. And like I said, the Pacers have shown they can handle pressure-induced situations, and I think tomorrow is probably the most pressure they are going to be dealing with because now they're
that's
at
true.
home. You're up 2-0, but you still got to handle business.
Yeah,
Don't do what OKC did tonight. Don't lay the two punches down. Come to your own hometown
and
and
get
get and
beat
get
up.
embarrassed. Yeah. So that'll be something to watch tomorrow for sure.
Because
Uh,
they beating the bricks out of OKC, boy. They making sure
yeah.
they let them know.
Listen, it's OKC's to lose right now at this point, but let's say OKC somehow does drop the ball. They're a team that has a lot of things to think about this summer, and I don't think they're going to go after Giannis, Scott, because Shea Gillis is due for a huge supermax this summer,
That's
three
right.
hundred something million.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
true.
you can keep him and your other pieces that are now basically the whole roster's getting paid, but now Shea is getting a lot more money. I don't think you could sacrifice small pieces on that roster to get Giannis. You have to sacrifice a lot
Right.
now to get Giannis. So I
Yeah.
don't think OKC is going to do that. What I think OKC will do if they somehow don't win, or if they do win, they're going to have to move around pieces this summer. You look at the Usman Dieng, Kenrich Williams. Those guys I think are expiring contracts. You have Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, who are potential like flexible pieces you can move. And they have picks too on draft night, and they have pretty much a full roster. So I'm going to look at OKC as a team that's going to do a lot of movement on draft night potentially. And if they
Right.
don't win, they might do some things. I think Brooklyn should definitely be open for business with them and the Spurs. Those are two teams, Spurs and OKC. You got to watch on draft night. They're teams that are looking to win now and not, draft and rebuild. So I think Brooklyn Nets, if you don't go after Giannis, be open for business and be flexible. Do not let a deal pass you by if it's a chance to get you further down the road and back to where you want to be.
Right.
So
I
that's
totally
something to think
agree.
about.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Wow. That's all. I had to get that off my chest, man, because I think personally that even if he doesn't pull anything off, I still think they in a good position to get one or two pieces at least out of this draft that they can really use, because
I. Mhm.
I really believe it's going to be there.
I hope it works out, Scott. I feel like this is the last chance, though. I listen. That was a gut punch on draft lottery night, but this is where this is like the most important draft in Brooklyn Nets history still, because you want to be able to find a core piece at least in this draft. I'm not focused on two right now. That is a goal, but you want to get that first piece down pat and not look back. And for Sean Marks, Joe Desai, and everybody else in the organization, this is your time to step up. There's no superstars to hide behind, no head coaches, no diva stars or anything like that. It's up to you guys to execute on draft night and find those core pieces. And here's the interesting, Scott, the Scout documentary. We saw episode 1, but where are the
Yeah.
other 8 episodes? We're about a month away from draft night. I don't know if we could fit all those episodes in. So did something change? Is there a Greek freak radar that's going to be put in this Scout episode? Like,
They seem like they acting like it, right?
Yeah, it's a little weird because you had the first episode drop, and how long has it been? It's been like 4 or 5 weeks already. Like
They ain't
you're
saying
expecting.
nothing, so they scheming. That's what it is.
I'm telling you, there could be some definitely interesting things happening for the Nets on draft night or before. But if Marks makes a big move before draft night, you know there's definitely something in motion, and
Well,
I
as
hope
long
it's to
as
get
it
a core
works. If
piece.
it works, it works. If it doesn't, then you know where he's going. You know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to get fired.
He should have been fired already, Scott. I
Yeah,
mean,
true,
with
but
the
I
big three
mean,
debacle,
I
that should have
guess
been it.
I guess Joe Tsai is saying to himself, "You got me into this. You gonna get me out of this."
Nah, Joe Tsai's got to get his 10 toes deep in the stoop. He's talking about owning football teams, something like, dude, focus on the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, you want to own a football team one day. You own the Brooklyn Nets right now. This is a team that's trying to accomplish something special, win that first ever championship, and go down as legends. But if our GM and our owner aren't locked in sync, are dedicated to finding those right pieces, trying to do it semi the right way before you have to go down the star route, they have to execute and actually commit to a plan. Like my problem, Scott, is this year I thought there was a plan in motion, and clearly, by based on how the results came, the plan wasn't executed right. So now you have this draft as your last chance to prove to the Brooklyn base, to prove to all the doubters that you guys can manage this and start building a structure. And they have to, Scott. There is no tomorrow after June 25th for the Brooklyn Nets if things don't go the right way. So I hope they come into draft night, guns ablazing, ready to go, and make some big moves that are going to put the Nets in the right position to eventually contend in the future. Because the Brooklyn base deserves that. For all the crap they've been put through the last few years, the one that are still dedicated. Because I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of Brooklyn base members that thought if the Knicks were going to win this year, they were going to quit on the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not like that. I care about the journey that we have. And I hope that that journey, the new era of Brooklyn, starts on June 25th with some good draft selections because the Brooklyn base really needs that energy to lift everyone up right now.
Right. Well, I don't know, man. It's just it's scary. It's
Yep.
definitely scary looking at it. I mean, I hope he does the right thing. I really do. Sean Marks got to pull it through. He
He's
has
got
to.
to. And I don't know what's up with his contract situation. They haven't said nothing. I thought he was a contract for like 2 years before, like when they put a release out. But I thought this year he might be a free agent or something, or they might hire somebody new. I don't know what his contract situation is right now. That's something to monitor as well, with Sean Marks.
Well, they saying a lot of people are speaking on it, and it's even on their website. They talking about they might do some kind of trade. He seems like that's what he's aiming for. So
Yeah.
I
Dylan
don't
Harper.
know.
If you make that move for Dylan Harper, you better be prepared to build this team up the right way because if you get your cornerstone guy, then there is a timeline in place. But if Marks doesn't, it just goes back to my point is that Marks doesn't have the stones to do what is necessary when you have to do it. And it'll be interesting to see if Marks does have the stones to do it because you want to make an impact on draft night. The Brooklyn Nets have the most picks to work with out of every team in this draft. So hopefully a true masterclass could be put on and the Nets could be in for a treat. But at the end of the day, it'll be interesting to see what more news we get leading up to draft night with the Giannis stuff, with Harper, Ace. And I hope we get either one of those, honestly. We get Ace, I'm excited. We get Harper, I'm excited. We're so good at Giannis. I know the Brooklyn base is going to be a blaze of disappointment because they want this to be done the right way. But at the end of the day, whatever piece helps propel this team forward and gets us back to winning basketball the right way consistently, I'm definitely game for it. But I just hope we get to enjoy that soon because I feel bad for Nets fans that have to watch mediocrity out there and not get the fun winning culture basketball that they fell in love with a few years ago.
They trying to say that they were trying to deal with, like you said, with San Antonio. Right here, it says Spurs get Cam Johnson, number 8 and
Mhm.
number 27. So for that second pick.
I don't know. I think you might have to give up an extra pick there. I just feel like it's not as straightforward as
Oh,
people think
and
it
a
is.
second rounder, a 2026 second rounder.
Yeah, I mean, basically our assets would be used by the Spurs to make a full-on, undeniable package for Giannis if we do that. And at the end of the day,
There
if
you go.
it,
Yep, that would be the
yeah, it,
package. They would throw in a couple more firsts and a couple of players.
It'll be interesting. I think if we get Harper and we basically help Giannis go to the West, I think the base is going to be even more excited than they are because I know a lot of them don't want Giannis. But if you get Harper and you kind of Giannis out of the East, I don't think there's going to be a sad Brooklyn Nets fan at all because you get your prospect of the future,
You
but you
still
also
have
at the same
19.
time,
You will
but the
still have
same
the 19th pick, which is
right.
what I wanted to keep. So,
Right. And
yeah.
I hope we get a big man. I mean, there's some really good bigs that are starting to shine out right now. Maxime Renard did good recently. Danny Wolf was watched by a lot of eyes. You got Maliwak. Like, you definitely got to get a big in this draft. We got to move off of Claxton. He's just got, like, he's hit his ceiling with this team. I think he's better suited on a team like the Lakers with stars that need his rim running abilities and his 1 through 4 defense. But with Brooklyn right now, I just don't feel like Claxton's committed to going down that hard, gritty route that Jordy's trying to instill in this team right now. So if you have a chance to trade Claxton, maybe before draft night or something like that, which would imply you're getting a center in this draft, I think the base is going to be even more excited because they know they're going to get a big in this draft. So maybe if Marks pulls that off, that could be a good start before draft night even begins. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, they trying to. I don't know, man. They really like Dylan Harper, and I do too.
I mean, listen, he killed it in Rutgers. Everybody thought it was going to be an Ace and Cooper battle, but for that 3 quarters, Harper was undisputedly the best player in Rutgers, and he had a crappy coaching staff, bad supporting pieces. Ace was injured here or there, and Ace wasn't hitting his full ceiling. But Harper was just all show and go. Like he was just killing it. I mean, he had a 3 point bucket winner from like half court. He was making a lot of interior shots. He was passing out well. The crazy thing is his offensive numbers. He was at one point the third best scorer in his draft class before he went down with a small injury. Like his playmaking kind of took a little dip, but it was still pretty good. And his offense just took huge leaps. If we get Dylan Harper, he is like that Cade Cunningham esque, maybe potential James Harden type combo. Like that would be a huge addition to the team if we somehow pulled it off. And the crazy thing is, Marks, you went to these Rucker games. You saw Dylan Harper bust ass and represent for New York. And if you want to get him, if you want to make this deal, be prepared to do big business with the Spurs, but also be prepared for the consequences of sending one of the best top 5 superstars potentially to that team. Let's remember, Scott, Sean Marks has Spurs connections, right? He won
Yeah,
a title riding their coattails. He was an assistant GM. If Sean Marks can't get Dylan Harper when he has these connections, how can we ever trust this guy to do any type of business? Because clearly, Scott, the NBA doesn't want to do business with this guy. But if the Spurs, where he came from, don't want to do business with him on draft night, I really don't think this guy should even have a job at that point. So if he
oh
could somehow
man,
use his connections to get Harper, wow, I might give Sean Marks a round of applause there. But if he doesn't, it's definitely a huge missed opportunity because he's supposed to have those connections.
yeah, yeah. I thought that was the whole idea of having that connection that they wanted to mimic what the Spurs do. So
Right.
yeah, he
It'll
should
be
be
interesting
able
to see
to
what
should be
happens.
able to pull some strings.
You,
But
you would think, right? But we'll see
you
what
would
we'll see what
think,
type of thumb marks we get. And BJ Johnson, listen, I wish he was a GM right now. He seems like a guy with vision. Like I heard him for like 10 seconds. I'm like, wow, he actually understands what this team wants to do the organic route. Like he said, hey, these next 3 years could be crucial for us, and the next 10 years. But this was 7 months before we found out. We got the eighth pick. It'll be interesting to see if BJ Johnson still feels that way. But yeah, Marks, he's on the hot seat right now. You got to show up on this draft night whether you use all your picks or you trade up or you make this huge crazy move for Ace or Harper, you got to be willing to be aggressive at the right moments. And the thing is, we don't have that cornerstone guy. As much as Cam Thomas showed those slight improvements, he isn't a top cornerstone piece right now. He could potentially be a secondary piece, which isn't a bad thing, but you definitely need that cornerstone piece. So if Mark somehow was able to get Ace or Harper, it definitely changes everything for the Brooklyn Nets future if that
you
happens.
know,
But
just to bring up some news that I brought up. It's
mhm.
been what you call him, Jock Vaughn got a new
Oh,
job. Guess where?
as a teacher.
As a coach.
Oh, damn! I thought it was going to be a philosophy guy. That sounds more up his alley.
but
No, I know what you're talking about.
oh, yeah, Kansas City
Yeah.
men's basketball. I couldn't believe he went back to his alma mater.
Darren Peterson. That's where
Yeah.
the potential the second best prospect's
Mhm.
going to be at. So
I'm
that'll be
surprised.
interesting to see what happens
I
there.
am so surprised. I mean, I thought he was chilling because the Nets are still paying him.
Right, we're paying a
So
few coaches right now. We're still paying Atkinson, I think.
this shit is crazy. Oh,
Yeah,
they
listen.
need to get it together, man. Sean got to get it right. Even if he do get fired, just leave us right. Don't leave us messed up, please, Sean.
Seriously, seriously, like this is just a draft where the Brooklyn Nets have to put on a master class. You cannot just play it safe. Like we have 31 picks to work with. We have ultimate cap space flexibility. We have movable contracts in Cam Johnson. And even with Clax as bad as he looks right now, there's a team or two that might want him. So you
Yeah,
have the ability to really navigate this draft and free agency because we're the top third team facilitator with our cap space. Boston, are they going to give up Drew Holiday or KP with draft assets for a team to take them? Like there's so many opportunities for the Nets this summer. Take them, especially if you get your cornerstone prospect. If you trade up for Harper Race, then it's time to start facilitating, making deals, getting more expiring salary, add more to your draft chest, set yourself up for an aggressive 2026 where the Nets, where most people feel confident the Nets would make those aggressive win now moves, especially if you help the Spurs get Giannis. So if it somehow leads to us getting Asa Harper at the expense of Giannis to propel us to 2026 with even more flexibility, you definitely got to be game for it, which will put us in a great position. But at the end of the day, Sean Marks has to show us he's more than just words, Scott. You got what you say has to match your actions at this point,
right, right. Yeah, I
especially
want
the
to just
GM.
say thank you, Quest One, for watching.
Hey,
Yeah,
Quest
so
One, he's on Breezy Show a lot. How you
yeah,
doing, bro?
yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he definitely got to pull that shit off, or else his ass is out for sure,
Putting it
for
lightly.
sure. I hate to say it, but that's just what it is. That's just
I
what.
hope I hope he does. I think this is right now and the thing is, if you do get Giannis out of the East is wide open right now. The fact that Boston, it's very unfortunate what happened to Tatum, but the Celtics, that dynasty's over, whatever that
You
was, and
think that
they
dynasty is over?
yeah, for a lot of reasons. You have new ownership now. Financially, they're very
Oh yeah,
expensive.
that's
Just
right.
getting rid of Holiday and KP changes a lot. Then you have White and Payton Pritchard, who eventually would be those other pieces if the Celtics really do break it down entirely. You also have Bruce Brown, who has a meniscus thing. I think they're going to try to rest it, but if that thing spurts up again and he has to get surgery, he's out. And as you know, with Tatum, he's out for the whole year. So yeah, I just feel like with the Celtics, they had their moment. They went after the title. They listen. You got to give it to Tatum and Brown. For almost a decade, they've been in the playoffs. Almost every year. You know how hard that is to do for a duo team, and that's why I'm so pissed at this Brooklyn organization. That could have been us, man. It really could have. But you look at that team for what they were able to do for so long, dominance. But unfortunately, every great thing comes to an end. Every dynasty. That's the thing about NBA sports or sports worldwide. Every dynasty comes to an end. And for Boston, their time is coming up. And for everybody in the East, it's wide open. That's why for Sean Marks, Scott, you got to
Right.
get this draft right. If you get Harper or Ace, you trade up five one of those two, we are in that position to start climbing up that ladder to eventually winning the Eastern Conference. Because right now, if it's just Pacers, Knicks, and Cavs, it's anybody's game for the next 2 to 3 years. So
That's true.
if Boston does go through that period of rebuilding, this is when the Nets got to start making those moves. Get your prospect to the future this summer. Make those right moves to set you up for 2026. Then be aggressive. Go after that start. And then you got everything you need to go out
Yeah.
there and try to win. But you can't get it wrong right now. You literally have the opportunity, but Marks has to show us he can take the opportunity and turn it into $1 billion investment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on draft night. But don't play a scared game. That's all I hope for in draft night is that the Brooklyn Nets don't play a scared game.
I think Sean knows that he has to make some good moves. I really
Mm-hmm.
believe that. I watching the video of them in the draft and they scouts and stuff in the room, which they supposedly in NBA have the largest scouting room in the NBA. So that's what I heard. That I don't know how true that is,
Well,
but
they always have like 50 people in the room with them, and I'm like, Sean,
yeah,
how could you be this bad when you got 50 years next to you? Like, that's my thing with Marks. Like, I feel like he's a very indecisive person. Like, he has visual ideas, but when it's come time to put pen to paper, most of his decisions have backfired. Besides, signing Katie and Kyrie and then getting James. in hindsight, it was good for a year, but then it really backfired. So you have all these voices, use them. You have a lot of people that really care about what they do. Use them to the best of your ability. And for Quest One, we're talking about draft and all that. And listen, Ace Bailey, he probably is more gettable than Harper right now, just because of the fact. Look at Philly's situation. They got Embiid, they got George, two aging stars. So there's a small timeline there. You got Maxey. You basically have three stars on the contract. They are in a position right now where they got to win. I don't think they have time to develop Ace Bailey. So you look at what they could potentially want from the Nets. We have Johnson, a serviceable wing that could definitely give them an offensive impact on that team right now. And I don't think the Paul George stuff, they're not letting him go. They need him right now because they gave him all that damn money. So I think they're stuck with him, and I don't think the Brooklyn Nets would want him. But they do have some movable contracts. They have Kelly Oubre. They have Andre Drummond. Remember him? They also
Right.
have Lonnie Walker. They have guys under contract. So if
Yeah.
they want to make a move with us that matches salary, and we do have cap space, we can definitely do something like the third pick, Drummond, Kelly Oubre for Cam Johnson, maybe pick 8 and pick 27, something like that. I do think Ace is probably the most gettable right now for the Brooklyn Nets. If you get Ace Bailey, he's definitely going to need a lot of development, but he has tools that just need a lot of time and effort. And I think Jordy and the coaching staff is definitely suited to bulk him up, to get him physically in tune, and to let his offense shine. But again, will Sean Marks do business with Morey? Because let's remember, they pulled off one of the worst trades, one of the top worst trades of
That
all
was
time. James
terrible.
Harden, Ben Simmons. So do these two
Yeah.
devils really want want to come back together and create more hell? That's something
Well,
you have to ask yourself.
the sad thing is when you look at Philly and Morey, he came back and did another messed up trade to getting what you call him on the team, Paul George.
Right,
That
right.
was a terrible pickup for them. It didn't
Well,
work out at
well, they
all.
outright signed him. They didn't trade for him. They outright signed. They outright gave him all the cap space money they had. That was a horrible move. But you look at him right now, that timeline is small, and Embiid, you gotta know if he's healthy or not. I think for what the opportunity for the Nets here is that they are near the cap right now. They really have no way to get out of this other than to win. So if a Cam Johnson some picks helps them, they gotta be willing to do business with any team that can offer them the best assets. And who is a team that has assets to work with? The Brooklyn Nets. So
Right.
it's definitely a little trepidous to work with Daryl Morey again, but if it somehow lands with us getting the third pick, getting off of Johnson might have to sacrifice a pick or two. It's definitely worth it because we lack a cornerstone guy. Now, can a Cam Thomas Ace Bailey combo work? We have to see how that develops, but just getting Ace Bailey has to be a win for the Nets, and I think we still would have our 19th pick in that scenario. So getting Ace Bailey and then drafting a big like a Maxine Reynard, hey, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
But
there's a
the
lot
sad
of
thing is I
influences
don't
there.
think Philly want to deal with us.
That's definitely something.
I just don't see it. And I don't see the Nets wanting to deal with Philly anymore.
So yeah,
Did
it's
nothing good
definitely
come out of that.
50-50.
Nothing good came out of it. Nothing.
Right,
Both
right.
teams
It's definitely
suffered.
something the way.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I think Ace Bailey might still be there after 3. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't. I'm not even sure what Philly would pick. I can't. I
Here's
can't
the
really.
thing: Philly could do something crazy. They actually could not choose to get Ace Bailey, which would throw teams 4, 5, and 6 off balance if somehow Ace falls to either one of them. So
Right.
let's say Philly wants to do something crazy and actually get a backup center. They could draft Common Maliwak to be
That's
Embiid's backup. Like they could do
that's true.
something nobody's expecting.
That's
They could
true.
also draft Trey Johnson. They need another bucket scorer
Right.
potentially off that
That's
bench.
true.
Like
I
if
see
Philly
that.
doesn't trade, they could potentially offset the draft a little bit by drafting, somebody nobody expects. So
That
if
is
Ace
true.
somehow falls to Hornets, well, here's another thing: the Hornets they already have Brandon Miller. So if they draft Edgecombe and Ace Bailey somehow falls to Utah, you don't think that Danny Ainge, the mastermind draft merchant, is not going to dangle Ace Bailey in front of everybody? He's definitely going to do it.
Yeah,
He's
he
going to dangle and
definitely.
say, "Yo, I want 4 or 5 picks straight up for
Yeah,
Ace Bailey."
he's a
That would be
gambler.
the
He's
that would be the
definitely
most scariest. Scott, that would be the most scariest situation for the Nets. If Ace somehow falls to 5, do you do business with the ultimate Devil Merchant and Danny Ainge, that would be a scary sight.
Danny Ainge is a terrible dealer, man. Anytime anybody he deals with get the raw end of the stick, man. He just he just mean. He's a mean dealer, boy. He just mean. But
Right.
I do see it's a possibility that Ace will fall back. So
It'd be a shocker. It would be a
it would be.
shocker, but
I mean, he would be picked up before the 5th or the 6th, I think.
you
Anyway,
would hope. But with Philly now, you really have to wait. How does Ace fit in that dynamic? You already have Paul George. You have your wing. So how do
are
you
they
develop him off
stuck
the
with Paul
bench?
George another year?
I think they are at this point, unless they attach whatever assets they have left. I mean, nobody wants that contract. He's a broken down player at this point in his career. He's got leg injuries, back injuries. He was essentially full of tranquilizer dots this whole year. Like they had him playing off a whole bunch of injuries. So I feel like with 76ers, it's a really bad buyer's remorse situation. You have to win this year, or the money you have committed to George and Embiid is really going to start hitting Philly in the gut, in the heart, in the brain, everywhere. So if I think for them, they really got to weigh how does Ace Bailey help us now because he's not going to get that time when you already have 3 stars in the team. So I feel like they have to dangle that pick and try to get something back. And if they could get Cam Johnson back, he's another guy that just fits in what they're trying to do. Offensively, knows what to do. He could play off the bench, shoots 3-point shots. So I feel like we're one of the teams that fits with what Philly's looking for. But like you said, do they want to do business with us again after how bad that went last time? That could potentially be something to hurt us. But I
Right.
really don't see why they need Ace though right now because they're in that situation where you have 3 stars. You need depth right now. You don't need young guys to develop. That's where it becomes a pickle.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. It's a possibility, but I mean, I really wouldn't mind having Dylan Harper, but just Fears would be good enough for now. It would be
Oh
good. I'm telling you. Well, we need a center. So
yeah.
that's another
If
thing. We need a
if you
center.
get Fears and Reynard, I'll still be happy because I think Reynard could be a good lob threat for Fears. Or if you
And
get
he
Danny
can shoot.
Wolf,
He's a better
yeah,
shooter than a lot of them.
right. You definitely wanted
He's
that big
ready to
man,
shoot. He's ready to shoot. He's a stretch. I
right?
I don't know if he's really a stretch 5 in this league, but yeah, maybe if you
Right.
develop him right.
Right, and you want to see how the backcourt of Thomas and Fears would do. I think offensively would be fun because Thomas won't have to be the only guy to do offense. I think for Fears, you're definitely going to see a lot of.
If Fears is gone before 8, they're going to end up picking some Demen or
I
they,
listen, Yegor Dem, and I know some people think he's a lot lower in this draft, but 6'8" point guard, he
that's
was
what I'm
actually what
saying.
his measurement said he was. He's got passing ability. Like at the end of the day, if I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place and Fears and Maliwak off the board, I was definitely open to Queen, but just given how Queen has kind of done bad in some of his combine stuff, just knowing that Brooklyn organization, they're probably not going to choose him. Unfortunately, I feel bad. I think people are losing out on Queen from our side, but knowing that he lacks some of the athletic things they're looking for in a big man, that could definitely be something that hurts him with our evaluation. But so if
Right.
you're missing out on Queen, you don't want Conklin whatsoever. Listen,
No, I don't want
I think the
Duncan
kid
Apple.
can score, but he said his comp was Klay Thompson and Jimmy Butler. You are not Jimmy Butler, bro. Like I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. I'm
No,
sorry,
you're
man.
not. I don't
You,
see Jimmy Butler.
you look dressed for the science fair, Con, but you're not dressed to be Jimmy Butler. So I would look to avoid him at all costs. But if you're looking at what the options, do you go after a wing like Carter Bryant and Noah Senge? In theory, maybe, but you want that lottery pick to be somebody you could really work with. I think Igor Dem is one of the rawest prospects to work with, but he's already got the 6'8" height and passing ability. It's just offensive identity and can his speed get better? Those are two things that Jordy should be able to work and mold. If you have Yegor with Thomas, I think that's such a great mix of match right there. You have your 6'8" point guard that can find a lot of guys wide open. He can find Thomas for easy threes, and Thomas can find him at the rim to do some layup shots. Like I feel like those two, they could be yin and yang there potentially. Like I wouldn't rule out.
You wouldn't rule out? Okay. He probably went off. Yeah, I wouldn't rule that out though, too, John. I really would. That whole Igor demand, he would fit as matter of fact, I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring up the mock draft. Let me bring it up.
Hey Scott, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, it went out there for a second,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
I was just saying, I think Yegor Demon is that raw prospect people looking down upon, but if the right coach gets him, he could be a threat in the NBA. And I think for us, getting bigger, if we could get bigger at point guard and center with the Yegor Demon and Maxime Renard, we're already going to start competing with other teams in the East just because we have bigger bodies. And I think if you want to protect Cam Thomas's defensive weaknesses, surround him with bigger players. It's not that hard.
Right.
Like
I
you
totally
want,
agree.
like you want to hide those deficiencies. You want Cam to just focus on playmaking being much more crisper. You want to focus on his rebounding being a lot more consistent. You want to focus on the offense being more efficient. Having bigger bodies around makes what Cam Thomas's weaknesses less of a weakness. I just feel like the organization needs to start thinking about that. And it'll be interesting to see if Cam Thomas really is a cornerstone guy next year, or if he's a trade piece for us. And it'll be interesting to see what contract he gets this summer. That's the big question.
Yeah,
How
that's the
does Marks
biggest
value
question.
Cam Thomas? If it's a
How
small
much you think he's
contract,
worth? How much you think they should pay him? Because I say around 20.
as a salary,
Yeah, a year. I
that's
would.
where I've been. That's where I've been at mostly 2023, something like that. I'm not willing to go 25 or 28 right now.
I ain't willing to go
Yeah,
25, 28,
yeah,
28.
he missed too much time. I thought about beginning of the season, but he didn't do enough.
Yeah, a front heavy contract for 3 years with a player option, maybe.
Wait, what, Scott?
I said 3 years
He-
with a player
Yeah,
option,
I
front
think at
heavy,
3 years, 3 years player option on the third year, $20 million salary. So
front
something
heavy.
like something like a 60 million salary for 3 years, something like that.
I mean, being a GM, I would make it front heavy this way. If I want to move him, it would be attractive.
Yeah, you want market value contract for Cam Thomas. I think
I
everybody
mean,
totally agrees on that.
that's just a gimme.
Yeah, you have to,
You have to do that.
yeah, like you don't want to anger Cam Thomas, force him to take a small qualifying offer, and then get paid by somebody else the following year. You
Right.
lose all leverage there. So I think with Marks right now, I think a best case scenario is a 3 year deal, option on the third year that gives us 25, gives us 26, perfectly aligns the timeline to see if Thomas meets what we're looking for and if he could fully become a cornerstone guy, or if not, you have his salary as a market value thing to dangle at other teams to try to get another upgrade. So I think that's the best case scenario you could hope for at this point. I'd be shocked though if Marks gave him a 4 year deal with a $20 million salary. That would be like, okay, you trust him or you still don't, but you make it seem like you do. That would be a surprise if he gets a full 4 year deal, something like that.
Yeah,
For a
they
rookie
have
contract.
Maxime Renault going at 24, around that.
Mm,
Would you take
I,
him at 19?
yeah, I definitely would at that point. I think if you lose
Because
other wing
Thomas
pieces,
Sober will still be there, but he's not a true 7-footer, is he?
I listen. I'm very open on Sorber, but I've seen recent mocks that Sorber might get drafted like around the lottery or something like that, late lottery. So if we lose out on Sorber and you have the 19th pick, Rexy Renard, if you can move up for spaces just to get him with your 19th pick. You take it. I think you need a big man right now, and he's definitely opening up a lot of NBA's eyes. To see an actual 7 footer on this team, that'd be quite a change of pace for the Brooklyn Nets for sure. So I'd definitely be game for that. And I think one of our late picks, a guy to look out for, Drake Powell, Scott. That guy is a defensive pest. He's a perfect piece for what the Brooklyn Nets are trying to look for right now, as far as a defensive identity goes. Powell guard 1 through 4. Definitely a really solid defender. I'd be fine getting one of our late picks potentially.
Oh, okay. Well, we got a lot of. They pushing Jeremiah Fairs further and further up, boy.
Yeah, he's definitely rising up the rankings. That's why I'm trying to tell some of the guys, listen, yes, Fears is definitely an option for us, but the fact he would fall in our lap, given our past misfortunes, I'm not willing to be there until it actually happens. You know.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
That's why I think I would be ready to change course. If Fear's not in our ballpark, and Common Mallywalk is still there, you got to get Common Mallywalk, man. Get the 7 footer. You can find a point guard later in this draft if you have to. Like
Right.
you got to secure a center or a point guard with your lottery pick in this draft. And
Yeah.
we could trade up for Yegor Demon. If I could draft Mallywalk and trade up for Yegor, I think I won this draft. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I get a 6'8" point guard and a 7'2" center to play with Cam Thomas. Come on.
Yeah.
That's a spoil of riches right there if the Nets pulled that off.
Yeah. That would be good. I'll take Igor. I'll take Igor. No problem. Queen should be still on the board. And
I'm not sure where he's going to. I really
yeah, I
don't. I
really
feel like
don't know.
he's fallen down a bit because he did bad on the athletic and some
Yeah.
scoring tests. So how does that impact his value? What is a team that could take a risk on him? I'm not sure at this point right now. I think if you're OKC, the Spurs, with your second, lottery picks, you might want to get him and just dangle him to somebody, see if they want him. If I was a strategist, that'd be something I'm considering at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm. It'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. I just hope the Nets get the balance they're looking for, if that's what they're
Uh,
looking for.
Rashard Fleming might be down at the bottom of the first round.
I'm surprised. Listen, this guy looks like a brick house. He's got a 7'10"
7
wingspan.
Yep,
Like,
something
come
like
on,
that.
that guy
7
does not look like a kid. Guy looks like a grown man ready to duke it out with somebody in a boxing ring.
230,
Come on.
6'8" and a half. Come
That guy
on.
is going to be a breakout star in this draft. Everybody says, "Oh, he's a junior or senior." Forget that. This guy's ready to play right now. Like,
he's big as hell.
damn.
He's no joke. Yo, he might be the surprise of the draft. I wouldn't put it past it that this guy will be a terror in the NBA.
Whoever picks him up is getting a really solid piece that's ready to go from the get go. And I
He
feel like
can
he's one of
shoot.
the best.
He's athletic. He can
Yeah.
rebound. He can run the
If,
floor.
if we're looking at all the forwards in this draft, I'd probably rate him third behind Ace and Cooper right now, Rasheer
Yep.
Fleming.
Be
Like
honest
that's
with
just
you.
how good
Yep.
he is. And I would say Carter Bryant is like right behind him. If Carter Bryant had more of a offensive identity, I think you could say you can make a case, but he hasn't found that yet. But Rasheer Fleming, guy dropped almost 40% from three in
Yeah,
college this year.
that's pretty good numbers.
Yeah, it'd be great if the Nets could find a way to get him, but I think considering the fact he's a junior, they might be a little leery. But it's like you got Jalen Wilson in the second round at 50, and he was kind of bad bad most of the season.
Yeah, you ain't lying. You ain't
Yeah,
lying. You can take
Rasheer,
this chance because that's a good chance. I ain't
yeah.
gonna lie to you. It wouldn't be a bad pickup.
Right, but I think for the Nets, you might have to trade up to have a shot at getting Fleming. I don't know if any team would trade up first for Fleming at this point, so I feel like he's probably going to go around at worst 10 through 14 in this draft potentially. Rasheer Fleming,
You think so? He might.
yeah.
He
If he
might.
somehow falls in the top 20, that's a gift for the Nets.
Yeah.
If he somehow fell around there, like come on,
Well,
that'd be a gift.
you got it's Asa Noel. When you think about it, point forwards, Colin Murray, Boyles from South Carolina. A lot of people like him. I don't know why.
I
Well,
don't
I can
either.
understand why Kneppel is in the top 10, maybe because he's the best shooter. But I mean,
He's an all right shooter, but he played with a lot of talent. If he was the lone guy, let's say you put him in Rutgers this season with Ace and Harper, would he have drastically made them better?
that's
A,
true.
li-
You got
a
a point there.
little, but it wouldn't be anything drastic. And I
You got
think
a
if you
point there.
what we have right now, I don't think him and Cam Thomas is a match. I think you have two offensive guys, but neither one of them are a central point guard. So
Right.
it's
You
really
got a
going to be
point there.
passing the ball and scoring, and that's
You,
nothing to work with.
yeah, you got a point there. You
Yeah,
definitely got a point there.
listen, if he somehow does draft Continental and does go after Yegor Demon or Noah Sengwe, I think it's a failure of a lottery pick. Like, I'll
Oh
straight pull
yeah, I
that's a
do
failure of
too.
a pick.
I
Like
do
you had
too.
so many ways to navigate this draft. I know some people say, "Hey guys, let's give the kid a chance." No, you had many opportunities. Even with you had last minute options to consider before Continental. You had Noah Sengwe, you said Yegor Demon, but it's like, oh, we got to go Continental because he could score. Come on. If that's the
Yeah.
case, give me Trey Johnson. If that's the case, if we're between him and Trey Johnson, I'll take Trey Johnson. Yes, the fit with him Thomas is horrible, but offensively, I could trust more of what Trey could do potentially than Con Knipple.
Right.
I think Trey Johnson has a good wingspan. He doesn't have a good height or weight factor, but wingspan wise and what he can do offensively, I would trust that a bit more than I would trust Knipple right now.
Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, I hope we weigh different options than Knipple. I
Oh,
really
no.
do.
You ain't lying. I don't know why everybody keep trying to put him on our team. That's the point. I
They
don't
want to make a
understand.
parody out of it, don't you? Have you heard of the Con Knipple puns? A triple from Knipple. Oh my gosh, that dunk from Knipple. It was a ripple. Iron Eagles can have over 100 puns written about the kid, man.
Oh, you ain't lying. He'd
I'm
be
not.
going crazy. Yo, it'd be funny too, boy. I ain't gonna
Yeah,
lie.
it'd be funny, but I want the Nets to be serious this draft. I don't
Yeah,
want
I
no
don't
no
want that. I don't
parody.
want that. I don't
I
want
want a badass that's going to come in and work from the get go and be a cornerstone guy in his first year. I want a guy in the first year. He's not going to look great. He's not going to be perfect, but he's going to have some games where it's like, yeah, I'm here. I want that type of guy.
right.
I don't need a supporting piece. Konkanippo is a supporting piece. He's at worst a Tyler Hero. I don't need a Tyler Hero that just got swept by the Cavs who got crushed by the Pacers. I don't need that type of guy. I need a
Yeah,
guy that's going to be a leader, that's going to have multi-skill potential, and is just going to be that cornerstone guy we're looking for. That's why Ace and Harper can't rule it out. And if Marks pulls off a shotgun on draft night, man, does the draft look really good for the Nets if that happens.
yeah.
And it's in Brooklyn. Like this is our first ever lottery pick. If Mark somehow took
Fuck
all
this
the
up.
crazy crap and shit this team went through and gets the
If
second
he
and third
fucked
pick
this
on
up, he
draft night
better
to be our
pack his
first ever
bag.
lottery pick, the whole narrative changes. I might have to delete my Sean Marks spam mail.
He's gonna have to move out of Brooklyn. He can't come in Brooklyn for a while. I ain't gonna lie. He better than not.
He better not get it, man. He better not. I'm telling you.
Uh,
He's gonna
uh
say, "Guys, I got Cooper Flag." Oh wait, no, that's Kniff.
that's Knipple.
Yeah.
Knipple. Oh man, Sean, you going down, man. You going
Oh
down.
man, the Post is gonna make fun of it. All
Oh,
these
they
newspaper
gonna say
outlets are gonna make
Brooklyn
fun
Nets
of it.
got Knipple. First round
Oh
draft pick.
man, it would be pandemonium on Breezy's show. Leaf man, he's saying now
Yeah.
it's fears a bust. If it's kind people say, what the hell's going on here? Come on, it was supposed to be
Uh,
fears a bust.
he gonna be saying, I can't do this. I
You got
can't
this
do this no
fucking
more.
nipple up in this shit.
Knipple.
Oh, it would be pandemonium, man. I'm telling you. Oh,
He
I
better
really hope
not.
that doesn't happen, man. I really
I
do.
don't know why. I don't know any team that really can use him. That who will
Yeah.
use they pick that early to get him. If
I
anybody,
mean,
he might fall back.
I'll be interested to see what happens with him. I just hope he don't fall to us. I really do, but I feel like it's a test. Do you
Well,
choose mediocrity or do you take a
let me
swing?
ask this question. I have just one question. This is the thing that irks me. Is
Mhm.
he really a top 10 pick?
If you're looking at just what he can do scoring wise, and you look at everybody else, I guess you can make a case he could fall there. But they're also this is a deep draft, and I think right now, for the fact that he was in Duke, he definitely gets a lot more of a profile look. I guess you could say than some of the
Because
other
of that?
guys who are on colleges teams that don't get that much of a look. Maybe that's why Con Knipple has that extra stock in his bag. And you look at his numbers in Duke, he was the second best scorer behind Cooper Flag. So yeah, he has a little capital work, but now it's the NBA. Let's get away from Duke. You have no more pieces behind you. You're raw, you're fresh, you're coming into the NBA. What can you really give a team? He gives you scoring. Now, can that be a second or third option? We really can't say now. But what he could be at worst is a fourth or fifth option. But you look at the Brooklyn Nets, we don't have a primary option. You currently have
Yeah,
Cam
you can't
Thomas,
even.
but
Why would
Cam
you
can't do
fill
it
a
by
fourth
himself.
option when you ain't got the first option? Right.
Exactly. That's why people are hoping that this Dylan Harper news is the tone setter of Sean Marks trying to rectify history and get that first ever lottery pick to be a second or third pick to be a Rutgers guy. Like if Sean Marks somehow got that accomplished, holy crap, we have to rewrite the narrative. we
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
write an article saying the forgotten son, Sean Marks, has made a
Yep.
comeback.
Yeah.
But
I know.
it would be a great story to tell if it happened. But this is the thing I've learned. Every time somebody reports Sean Marks want to be aggressive, he doesn't do anything. Like, I got to see it to believe it. If he actually pulls this off before or on draft night, it definitely changes the whole perspective on what this Nets team could be. But right now, if your mindset is, I'm going to draft where I'm going to draft, it's not a good mindset to have, especially when you have 31 picks to work with. Realistically, you can get Asa Harper right now, but you have to be willing to sacrifice some of your depth, some of your pieces, to some of your draft capital to get Asa Harper, and you willing to do it? If I was a GM, I'd be willing to do it because I need that franchise guy right now. If Cam is my secondary and I get the primary, we have the makings of something that could be potential play-in or playoff worthy the next 2 or 3 years. But you
Yeah.
have to be willing to make the move. That's the
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah. That's the problem.
Mm.
All right. All right, John, I gotta go.
Yeah,
I guess I
same.
give this
What
up
show,
for a
Scott?
minute.
What show?
Nice
Thanks for having me
talk,
on.
man. Thank you for showing up.
I appreciate it. We always have good convos. I appreciate
Yeah.
your perspective on things, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely do another lean up to draft night and all that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We'll do another one. All right. Don't
well,
forget to like and subscribe, everybody. Peace.
peace.